You can begin.
Thank you, sir. I don't see Pat yet, though. Dane, have you heard from Pat at all?
No, I have not, John.
Okay, well, we'll just get going here, I guess, and I can just read through the agenda and you guys can kind of take over. I guess maybe first things first, Tina Rustbolt stepped down, just had other commitments and things. So Mike Pitcher is our kind of custodial and grounds, buildings and grounds rep. So just to introduce him, he's there on the screen. He's a maintenance mechanic for us. He takes care of a lot of our kitchen equipment repair and then kind of other duties as assigned. Mike's pretty talented, so he gets kind of some of the odd type jobs as well, or if things are going well in the kitchen and slow down, he gets some other things. So wanted to introduce him first and foremost.
How you doing?
So with that, I guess we'll just go down the agenda here. First thing on the agenda is the approval of minutes from October 19th.
Can I make a motion? Can I make a motion if I wasn't at the meeting? I will.
Yep, you can.
Okay, I'll make a motion. I'm making a motion to approve.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, next thing on the agenda, financial report. I'll turn it over to Dave.
Good evening, everybody. Hope everybody had a great holiday season. I'm sure it was different for everybody like it was for me. It wasn't a normal holiday season, but it was good. So I'm going to share my screen just like normal. So let's see if I can do that. There we go. 1 second here. There we go. There we go. Share. Can you see the agenda?
Yes.
Perfect.
Yeah.
All right. So I'm going to head on down to the financials here real quick. So we're going to look at save here. Initially here on save, you can kind of see where we had a beginning balance at the close of 2020 of $39 million. And so that was a lot had to do with the revenue bonds that were received for the Coolidge project. And that's a lot of that funding, which is why it jumped from 7.3 million to 39 million. And so far this year, you can see that we have encumbered, we brought in 17 million and we have encumbered to spend 31.98 million this year. And at this point in time, you can kind of see our annual budgets and you can see a negative here. That is because we haven't posted the budget for the bond proceeds for Jackson. That happened, we closed on November 24th for $9.925 million of bond proceeds for Jackson. We will sell bonds in 2 installments. One here we did for $9.925 million, and we'll issue the remaining in FY21 or calendar year 21. And so we did that intentionally so that we could get those bank qualified by issuing less than $10 million. So we breaking it up so that we can be able to issue. And we're not going to have to issue that much in the next year because we're using also some fund balance to help offset the construction costs for Jackson as well. I'm going to go down into the next.
Hey, Dave.
Yeah.
On those November bonds, what interest rate did those bonds go off in November?
It was less than 1%.
Or could you just shoot an
Yeah,
email?
I
out
will.
to us?
I can't,
And then-
I know it's 1%.
And then
I
when,
think it was like 0.2%, 2.5 or something like that, but I'll send that out.
and then when do that next round of bonds price?
We actually haven't talked about when we're going to issue them. I was going to be reaching out to Tim Oswald and say, let's have a conversation when we think it's the best time to have that issue go out. But we haven't had a conversation since the new year.
And then approximately how much will that next issuance be?
Oh, that was going to be, so we got 9 here. I was going to be like $4 to $5 million, I believe, in that ballpark. The next issuance.
So you're saying that the bonds that went off in November went off at 25 basis points?
Correct. Yeah.
And that's phenomenal. I mean, that's,
Yeah.
that's
It was really
almost,
low.
it's almost free money. And
It was.
the question I've got, and I know it's maybe a little bit beyond this group, but does the school district have some things that have a higher cost of capital that would be CapEx related, where it would make more sense to be able to increase the issuance, on that bank-related debt, if you get close to that, and then defease those other bonds?
Well, we actually have a master lease that we can tap into. That's a fluctuating rate based on the market. I haven't checked into what that rate would be if we were to use that to help purchase some buses or vehicles that we typically would do. And but it's a master lease that we can tap into, that the board has, that's kind of open, that we can tap into for purchases of different equipment of different nature, that if we felt like we needed to, we could do that.
Yeah, but you understand my point is that, I mean, that's just phenomenal execution. On
It
this.
was, yeah.
And
I get what you're saying.
And I don't want to do anything that would be, put us in jeopardy in terms of our bond rating or, how we need the monies for these capital improvement projects. But it sounds like you are having internal discussions about the fact of if you would increase that amount and then defease some other bonds, that would reduce the interest carry for the school district.
We're also bound on some of our other bonds since the rates came in so great. We are, a lot of our other bonds aren't callable at this point in time.
Oh, okay.
And so that's why we would probably be looking at conversations about refinancing other bonds as well. But they're not at the state where we can do that.
Okay. Okay. I just wanted to make sure.
Yeah.
Because that's some of the lowest yields I've heard for interest expense.
Yeah. So it was a great rates that we got. So, yeah. So, all right. And
are your projections?
We just
then,
also.
Hey, Dave, are your projections then based upon that you would raise about 4 to 5 million in that next issuance?
Yes, the next round it's about 4 to 5 million, I believe, if I remember right.
And so that would be in these projections you're providing us, or not?
No, not yet. Because I don't have those listed here. But that is not in the documentation I have before you tonight.
Okay. Thank you.
Yeah. All right. Now, if we on this page here, you can see that in FY21, we have $39 million budget that we have listed here. And I do want to point out Coolidge, we have shows spent 20 million. That is what is left that we have on our purchase orders and things that we have already slated out there. Even we're only projecting to spend about 17.6 of that. The rest of that will carry over until FY22 year. So we have an overall budget of 25 million is what we're anticipating. That is what was left, of our budget, which some of that's going to be carrying. We're only projecting to spend about 17.6. The remaining of that will be spent the following year. So of that over $3 million that we spend that following year, we're projecting. In Jackson, we are projecting to spend 2.5 million at this point in time, and we have about 1.6 spent at this point in time for Jackson school. And then you can kind of see where everything else flies. So right now we have 39 million to spend, but we have only spent or encumbered 32.9 million at this point in time.
But the 39 will raise by about 4 to 5 million and then be offset by the Jackson expenses.
Correct. We actually have the expenditure side of budget in here. This is what we anticipate to spend this fiscal year, 2.5 million. We haven't got the revenue. We got to adjust the revenue budgets for the money that we're getting in for that.
So it'll be closer to 11 million on remaining then in that line, that yellow line?
No, in that yellow line. This is expenditure side. This is expenses side. This only shows expenses. This does not show the revenue. The revenue side, we're going to be bringing in another 4 to 5 million in revenue here, bond proceeds. That's not projected here in the annual budget. Because we got to adjust that for our money that we're going to bring in.
And then one other question along these numbers. Is there anything that the school district would be getting? I'm just not that close to it on the CARES Act from the federal government that would fall under the either Pebble or master facilities?
There's a potential that we could use some of the CARES Act money for HVAC type of things this next round, but I highly doubt that's where we would use the money for. Well, I'll talk about that later.
Okay.
Okay, so also here on this line, the 56 million here, this debt, it's bonds that we had to, this is a refunded issue that we refunded back in 2015. We just refinanced those, and we actually saved just about $2.2 million in interest cost with the refinancing of these bonds. And those closed on December 29th. And we actually had 9 bidders on that, which was great. And we had and these were sold at a premium, a little over $5 million premium they were sold at. And so our reserve fund that we had on that was about 4.3 million is what we had in the reserve fund at that time. And at the time of the refunding. And so when we refund the new bonds, we issued 35.535 million to refinance these bonds. And in that, we were going to save projected about $2.2 million on that. So that was good news on that.
Do you ever track any of that, Dave, where that being able to show what I'll call that defeasance anywhere that in any type of reporting that you do to us?
Can I give you a report where it shows that?
Oh, are you doing that now? And if not, would you?
We do. We do a report that we include in our CAFR every year that shows our debt schedules and payments and what was added and what was defeased during the year.
But does it show the savings that you're just talking about?
No, it does not show the savings. No.
Is there something
That is
that's,
showing how much
is there,
principals left was added
Is
when
there-
it was required.
is there something that you could do to report to the group? Because again, it's huge positive, and I think sometimes we miss out on being able to, because these are public records, being able to demonstrate, the really good financial stewardship that you guys are doing. So I'm just wondering if there's an easy way for you to just
I
append.
could share a report that with the group that shows how much we saved on the
Yeah.
reissuance of this.
And I think that's all I'm trying to get at, is because I think sometimes maybe these are such complex issues. And if we have some easy types of reports, talking points, that if the issues ever come up, there would be in the record that type of information. And again, if it's an easily generated type of report, because you told it to us now verbally, but I'd like to be able to just have something where it's in the record and works.
Can you see me at all, or do you see my screen? Can you
Mostly
see
your-
me or just see my screen?
We can see you a little bit, Dave, but it's pretty small.
Okay, so I'm going to unstop sharing my screen here a second. And trying to get a full screen of this again. Come on. Oh, come on. All right, I don't know if you can see. This is a document that I would kind of share with you guys that I can actually send out to the group. This actually shows the savings, which is clear here, the net savings that Piper Jaffray gives to us, and that shows the 2.1 million,
Wonderful.
0.89. And so that is the report shows of the savings that we generated from this. This is something I can share to the group and include in the packet. So
I think that'd be phenomenal. And then what I would
So-
propose that you also would in the meetings when there is a material event, just call it out in terms of going through that part of the report, because I just think that while they're complex topics, these are really great stories to be able to communicate.
okay.
Dave, you got more to relate there. This is Pat. I apologize for being late.
I do. I'm
Okay.
going back to my
Keep going.
screen, my other screen now.
Yep.
Can you see it? All
Hey,
right.
Pat, were you on when Dave was talking about that the bond issuance created a savings of well in excess of 2 million?
Yes, I was on I got on about 4 minutes late, Lindsay. I
Okay.
appreciate that. Thank you. Go ahead, Dave.
1 second here. Apologize. I can't find my mute. Oh, it's just can't. Apologize. I had to come home because MediaCom is supposed to be here between 5 and 7 o'clock to work on our internet. And so actually they just called and said, we could do it in 15 minutes. I'm like, nope, you'll wait till 5. So apologize. All right. Okay. So can you see my screen? You can see it, correct?
Yep.
Perfect. All right. I'm going to kind of done with save. I'm going to go down to Pebble now. And so Pebble here, we have, we closed out the year in FY20, about $2.55 million better than we did in the year before. And, but we are going to be kind of tapping into some of that fund balance in Pebble and doing some additional projects that we have. We're doing some, and Don, you can allude to some of that. We're doing some lighting, some ball diamonds, and some tiling work, and those types of things that we're going to be kind of attacking. That was not necessarily on the Pebble promise that that were needs that we needed to do, and so we're tackling some of that this current year. So. But if you looked at our current budget this year, which isn't shown here on the expenditure side, our current budget is about 15.7 million. And of that amount, 15.7 million, 6.285 million of that is for FY22 projects that we have budgeted, entered already for next year that we are going to be working on bidding out this spring for next year. And some of those projects would potentially happen. Some of the expenses will happen in this fiscal year before we get into the next fiscal year, just because of the nature of of that happens. Some work might happen in May, June, after we get bid when things in the spring. So I just want to let you know, even though our budget shows 15 million and we only generate about 10 to $11 million in Pebble, we are, a lot of those expenditures, like I said, over $6 million is for that next year. So, okay, here. Like I said, so far today in revenue, we had 10.9 million budgeted. We received 5.3, and we'll get our additional property taxes come in here in March. And then we'll receive most of the rest of the revenue at that point in time. And when you look at all the different projects, I kind of want to point out where you're going to see is some expenditures that we have incurred this year. We still have incurred a little bit from the spring derecho and that spring hail damage that we had last year. We have some expenditures from that came in through this last year. And then we also have derecho. And I'm going to talk a little bit more about the derecho here in a little bit. But these are all the expenses that we've been paying for out of Pebble for expenditures that we have incurred that we'll be filing with insurance to get reimbursed. And so you can see here that's $349,000 for that right now. And then you can see this other damage that we had of just about $100,000, $96,000 for the electrical damage that we sustained at Jefferson, this past July before the derecho hit. And so that's shown up on here in Pebble. That was typically wouldn't be there. Let me see here. I think we do have some of the, I have to find it here, have some of the expenses, like I said, for the lighting improvements that are in here somewhere. I know they're here. Dun, dun, dun. Baseball, that's a drainage I talked about. Where's the lighting?
Go down just a couple more, Dave. There you go.
Okay, there we go. Here's the lighting that we're talking about, the Jefferson, Kennedy, and Wash. And that's, you can see what we have additionally had budgeted. So it looks like we might be needing to adjust our budget a little bit for that lighting. So.
And Dave, reminder on some of that, with our budgets, we also had damage to those lights during the derecho. So we do have some insurance money coming from those to supplement our initial budgets as well. So instead of repairing what was there, we're just going to take the proceeds from that to put towards the new lighting.
Thank you, John.
Yep.
Then, getting back to the next page here. Here we go. Here's where we're talking about restoration. These are the repairs and reports summarized reports from our restoration company that we've been using for all the damages that they are taking care of through the restoration and their estimations of the repairs. So if you look at these, list all the schools, here's the mitigation amount. Okay, mitigation is what was spent to dry out the facilities, to clean them up, to get them ready to be repaired, and those types of things. So you can see we spent $15.142 million in mitigation. Temporary repairs that were done on facilities was just a little over $500,000 to get our buildings closed up after the derecho temporarily until the repairs could happen. You can see a lot of that. The biggest one of all of these is Kennedy. Well, Pierce was a pretty big one too, temporary repairs at Pierce. Then you have the column here, as of October 7th, these were all the estimated repairs per our insurance company that was provided by our restoration company. So you can see a total loss of $44.85 million was the loss. That's not including any of our expenses for internal things that we've lost or whatever. That's just basically the envelope, our grounds, and all of that type of work that they're doing. So the recoverable depreciation, these are the amounts that once all the repairs have been done and the bills have been submitted to insurance with the invoices, this is amount that will be reimbursed to the restoration company. And all this money is actually going to the restoration company. It's not actually coming to us. We're signing off on it, but it goes to the restoration company because they're the ones paying the bills right now. But once the invoices are submitted, they will receive the recoverable depreciation amount for that. So right now you can see the claim amount is what has been filed with insurance, and what insurance paid to the restoration company here is this amount. And the difference is the $10 deductible that we owe for all the damage. So that's kind of just a quick summary on what from the restoration. Here's kind of what we have done internally. We have district organized work, is what I'm calling it. There's like $108,000 of labor, a little over $11,000 for materials, additional $229,000 for contracted work, a total about $350,000. We received insurance payments of $183,000 of that so far, and we haven't filed all of this yet. We filed a portion of all of this work. So we still have a remaining about 166 that we still need to file with insurance to get reimbursed. And we've also filed one claim for personal property, and we still have some additional claims that we need to file for that. But we filed $261,000. We received insurance payment about $174, and what's left is depreciation amount. That amount we will get reimbursed when we actually submit all the invoices of proof of documentation for those purchases, and we'll get reimbursed that amount. So
we'll have additionally another $210,000 to $220,000 of business and personal property claims to add to that.
So that's a quick breakdown of the kind of derecho. Just kind of want to give the information to the group.
Yeah, I've got a question. I don't understand that. It's just not clear to me where you're in the section up there where you have the green columns that you don't need to move anything. But so is the way to look at this information that what the district will be out will be the insurance deductible? Is that it? And so when I see that down there being 10,000, is that how I should interpret that, or?
Correct. That's what we'll end up being paying out for all these expenses up here. We'll be paying $10,000.
Phenomenal.
That was my only question too, Lindsay. Yeah.
That is, you guys have these numbers every day and you're living with them. It just is not intuitively obvious. And so that's another phenomenal story because of the fact with these repairs, it'll extend the physical life of a lot of these properties that the insurance coverage will take care of. at a net cost to the district of only 10,000, if I'm understanding correctly.
Right. I anticipate the insurance to change this next year, and I wouldn't be surprised if they put different deductible limits on wind damage moving forward, because it's interesting. Because I received a call from the business manager of Omaha school districts, and he was just calling around asking what our deductibles are from bigger schools across the state, and trying to do a comparison of what they do. And they don't have an EMC insurance, because EMC insurance said that they won't insure them because they had too many rooftops in such a small square miles footage of an area. And so, but their deductible, what they have to pay is, probably $1 million deductible. And so I anticipate EMC having to make changes, because these are big losses that they're going to have to deal with. And I wouldn't be surprised if we have different limits moving forward for wind damage and those types of things, higher deductibles moving forward that they're going to require. And right now we are benefiting from the policy that we have in place right now with one deductible, because all of this happened at one time.
Yeah.
If they had events, we would have separate deductibles. So
That's where I was going to ask.
Is there a way for Dave and Jonathan for you to put together, again, just for the record, a little narrative that would, say, hey, with this, damage of that was incurred of over 44 million, that school districts will be expending $10,000, which is its deductible because of the nature of the storm, but then have Jonathan just make some general statements like there were X roofs repaired or replaced, or just a few high level things that talk about that have extended the physical life of these buildings. Again, I just think these are very powerfully positive, complex topics, but a little narrative in case, someone in the public wants to have information on our oversight that we're doing. And that, again, it's all a very positive story, but sometimes I think these positive stories get lost. So I'd appreciate if you would think about putting something together that would go into the records for these meetings, some narrative.
Hey, Dave, John, this is Pat. It's not a big, I don't need a rough number or anything, but all the work and the damage that has been repaired and estimated here, is there any work on there that before Derecho came in was forecasted to be worked on or done, taken care of out of the Pebble or anything that now is included in the insurance monies? You follow me there?
Yeah, I'm following you. Yeah, there was probably some roof work in there. I want to say roughly we were $18 million worth of roof work across the district. So it's hard to say if any of the specific sections that were paid for from insurance money were ones that we were going to do in the next 5 years.
Right.
It's kind of hard to pinpoint that down, but obviously we're further ahead now. Our list of roofs that needed to be done shrank tremendously because of this.
Understand.
And
Okay.
that's probably the biggest piece, Pat. As you
do we have any gym floors, John?
Yeah, gym floors, and actually there's still some work to be done next summer, some resanding of some gym floors. So yeah, that stuff was in Pebble. So there's some of it. It's probably hard to put an exact number to that, Pat, but yeah,
Right.
we're definitely.
It happened to fall
Definitely
under
would've been.
insurance now and everything, so, okay.
Yep.
Okay, thank you. Dave, you got more?
Yeah, I got one more page here.
Yep.
So now that we're talking COVID here.
Oof.
So how I'm going to explain this to you. This is what we received from the CARES Act money. We received $3.133 million. That includes our CARES Act plus our GEARS money, which is part of the CARES Act. There's just another title with that. The GEARS was really for connectivity devices, connectivity for the students. And so these are all the expenses that we have incurred with regard to COVID type expenditures. And you can kind of see we have $44,000, almost $45,000 of postage, additional instructional materials that for remote learning about $50,000. There's a $7,700 for on non-budget time for salaries and benefits. We supported our nutrition fund expenses. These are proprietary funds, nutrition and daycare. $205,000 for nutrition, a little over $500,000 for our daycares. We spent about $3.5 million for the elementary technology rollout, which was coming out of SAVE funds. That's how much we spent. We had another $360,000 for hotspots, some of the software that we spent for the technology rollout. We hired a bunch of additional bus attendants to help be on our buses, to help make sure that kids keep their mask on and those types of things to help with in getting masks on kids that come onto the bus. We have spent about $725,000 on PPE cleaning supplies, another $33,000 on air purifiers. So we, in total, we have spent about $6 million. But we also are getting reimbursed from FEMA. And surprisingly, it sounds like we're going to get reimbursed about everything, all the claims that we have filed with FEMA, which we weren't sure we were going to get that. But so far, so good. Things are kind of progressing as we're going to get that money, which is kind of great. So that means you knock that down. And so we have about 5.5 million. So we still show a shortfall about 2.4 million. That is all before this new round of CARES Act money is coming through, the $900 billion that was just approved. And that's of that amount, 54.6 million or something like that is what schools are going to get. And 54 billion, I should say, not million. And so our state share is of 900 million, but so our share is yet to be known what our number is going to get from the state. But I anticipate it to be close. I mean, about 2/3 of what we received maybe last time. That's my best guess. But so I just kind of want to give you a synopsis of where we're at today. The air purifiers, that was we purchased those limited. And I think that's why we were able to get reimbursed for those. Those are only for areas like our nurses' offices, our band rooms, music rooms and then classrooms where kids, like special needs classroom where kids could not wear masks. And we bought these HEPA air purifiers for those classrooms and those spaces. So that it's very limited. And I think that's why FEMA agreed to pay for those. So any questions on the COVID?
The 2.4 million shortfall.
Yeah.
So is the way to think of that with this next round of CARES that the money will be used to offset that shortfall?
Yes and no, Lindsay, yes and no, because we're still not done throughout the year. We still have expenses that we might still incur.
Yeah.
Here. And so we could have some expenses. Our thought was always to whatever was left, what we could help support the SAVE expenditure to offset some of those expenses, we would, to restore some of those expenses back into the SAVE fund for what we actually incurred. Because we weren't anticipating spending this money on SAVE initially. We weren't anticipating. And so we went to one-to-one devices at the elementary level. The plan was in the future was to go to like a two-to-one approach, not a one-to-one. And so we've incurred a lot more expenses than what we anticipated to do out of SAVE. If we can restore some of the dollars back into SAVE from some of these funds, we will do that.
Yeah, you've anticipated my question that that money, to the extent that you get that additional FEMA money, and let's say just for the benefit of our group, let's say you get 2.4 million, that equals that. I'm just for illustration purposes. That would make 2.4 million going back into save, if I understand correctly, or not?
That is a good possibility where that money could end up going back into, correct.
But right now, you're the question I'm trying to get or answered is that 2.4 million was unexpected, and for all the reasons you mentioned. So, as it relates to those projections that you were showing us earlier, that does it factor that shortfall, or does it assume it zeroes out, or I'm just trying to reconcile that onto the other?
We actually, the funding that we've allocated to IT out of SAVE, okay, that money for what they carried forward from the prior year to the current year's allocation of 2.4 million, they had that carryover money in their budget in SAVE.
Mm-hmm.
They had that. So we, all intents and purposes, we could say, no, we're going to offset other expenses in the general fund that we qualify for CARES Act. We could do that, but we're trying to because we did incur a lot with the one-to-one devices, and the whole push for the elementary one-to-one devices was due to COVID. We would not have purchased them this year had it not been for COVID. And so if we can use some of that money, and we met all of our other needs in
T and facilities, it potentially gets mitigated because of the accelerated rollout. And I realize that the computers need to be repaired, replaced, and things like that. But it's another really great story, correct? I mean, this is a positive.
Agreed.
And that's all I have.
I've got one other question on this page. So it looks like that you're saying the cost per student certified enrollment. What is our certified enrollment number for?
What's that?
Well, you say on the bottom line here, you got cost per student, and you say that the
This is a document that was pulled together for another purpose. And our AEA was gathering data from all the schools, how much they spent, and they wanted to break it down on a per pupil basis. And we're pulling it down on our certified enrollment basis and looking at what our shortfall was based they were going to go back to our legislature or the state and saying, hey, if you have additional funding, look how much shortfall we are. That was before all this new funding was approved by the feds.
Yeah, my question is what is our certified enrollment for Cedar Rapids?
That's our number, 16,236. Our certified, what is it? Our certified enrollment is all of our students. That includes all the additional weightings they generate. Special ed has higher weightings per student than regular ed students. So a level 3 student is 374, weighting. So one student would generate equivalent to 3.74 students. And so when you take all of our students and the additional weightings, that's what our total certified enrollment number is. That's what's used to generate our budget dollars for the following year.
And then that's also used for kind of driving the sales tax money that
it does. It's a generated number for sales tax as well.
So we have an enrollment of about 16,200.
That's was our certified enrollment as a 10-1, yes, and it's down from last year.
That's the question I was going to ask. How much is it down?
614 students, 614.6 students.
And is that reflected in your forecasting for sales tax revenue?
Yes, it will be. Correct. Like I said, this just came in October 1, and it was we had to communicate that in our bond information and actually in our bond rating call that we had, a rating call that we had with Standards and Poor. We had to we disclosed that with them about our enrollment drop due to the derecho and COVID, and we still maintain our AA+ rating, and we still maintain our rating that we had before. I was a little concerned about that. And so, yeah, it's a concern, obviously, because of that. It does impact our save dollars, and to a tune of, what is that? 614 times, 1 second here. So that's like $625,000 in sales tax revenue that we are will not receive due to this enrollment this next year. And hopefully our enrollment actually starts rebounding from this, from the derecho and the COVID. And so we're monitoring our enrollment closely to see if it starts rebounding. That's what we're hoping. It's going to rebound quicker. Because people have maybe temporarily moved while their home's getting repaired, or they're, from the derecho, and they'll come back. But we're kind of monitoring that.
Thank you.
You done, Dave?
Yes.
John, I don't have a agenda in front of me, so are you up next?
Sure am. First thing on here is new elementary update. Things are going well at Coolidge. Buildings and closed. Some of it's temporarily enclosed. They just have a few bearing walls left over there, and then they'll have a roof on everything. Really still on track to be done in time for school to start. Roughly about 3 weeks after what we originally thought we'd be done. But due to the derecho, they feel that lost them about 5 weeks of time. So they've made up 2 weeks since then, which is good. But most important thing is building is still slated to be open for school. So we're in a good spot. Any questions on Coolidge?
That's what I was just going to say. Anybody got any questions about anything?
All right, next on the agenda, approval of the Harding Middle School roof improvements project. So last summer, this project might sound familiar. Last summer, we replaced the roof over the gym dome. And this summer, we're going to replace the roof over the cafeteria auditorium dome. Only had one bid on the project, which really wasn't too surprising. It's a roof coating project, and there's just not a whole lot of people that do that. Advanced Builders Corporation, our low bidder, they also did the project last year. Low bid amount $744,000 with a construction estimate of $750,000. For comparative sake, they did so it's pretty much the exact same thing they did last year, just a different dome. Bid came in at $703,000. So kind of with the lessons they learned from last time. And then obviously with inflation, I think we're sitting pretty close. That's roughly 5.5% higher than what we paid last year. So I think good numbers, solid numbers, even though there's only one bidder there. Questions, comments?
I'd like to make a comment. Those domes actually had to be 40 years in the last. They lasted 40 years before they basically had to have a major restoration. All we did during my period, actually the 30 years I was there, was basically coat them, silver coat them. And that was actually pre me. So, and I've been on now for 8 years. So.
Yeah, and that's what the product we're putting on. I don't remember exactly how it is. I believe Brad or Jeff, if you're on it, you remember better than I do. I think we have a 20-year warranty, and then at that 20-year time frame, we can come back and same thing, Dave, put another coat on and then get another 10-year warranty at a 20% cost of what we paid now, and that's the amount that I don't really remember. So I think the system we put on, yes, it's expensive, but I think it sets us up long-term for the situation you were in, Dave, with what we have currently.
Yeah, the product is recoatable. In other words, all the investment that we've put into insulation and the base layer is maintained. It's just the top coat that has to be reapplied. So relatively speaking, pretty considerably more affordable than what we had to go through this time.
Yep. And Jeff brings up a good point there. We opted to add insulation to it to get our R value to where it should be based on energy code. And there's not a great way of doing this, but it would be interesting to see how much money we save in the heating and the cooling of those domes by adding that insulation to the roof. So some cost savings there that makes sense in the school district financial world.
So is there any other, we looking for a motion here to, if somebody's got the agenda in front of them, could read the motion if they're willing to make that motion?
I have it up in front of me. I'll
Thank
make
you.
the motion. It is recommended that the Board of Education award a contract to the low bidder, Advanced Builders Corporation, for the Harding Middle School Roof Improvement Project Bid Package 1. The low bid amount is $744,000. Solom Lang construction estimate $750,000. Actual cost $744,000. Project budget $750,000.
Thank you, Sue. Do I hear a second from somebody?
I'll second.
Thank you. We got a motion and a second to approve. All those in favor say aye.
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 Those against, same sign. Motion carries. Thank you. John?
That does it for the agenda. Just comments and recommendations from Pat Loeffler.
Boy, my comments and recommendations, I don't have a lot. I've been trying to avoid COVID. We caught it in our family, and it is not fun. I don't wish it on anybody. So my recommendations is wash your hands, wear your mask. I will say this, having grandchildren in the school system, guys, you guys are doing a great job in monitoring things and making sure you guys stay on task with things. What Cedar Rapids in the school system has gone through this last year with, and I'll say it myself, when I ran for city council, I did not expect one moment that there would be a derecho, there would be a COVID, there would be a Black Lives Matters movement, there would be all kinds of this political stuff that we've gone through. Cedar Rapids has handled this very well, and I'm very proud to say that I'm part of you guys. So that's my only recommendation. Everybody stay healthy, wash your hands, wear your mask. I don't know if anybody else has any comments or anything they want to add to it, but and I do apologize for being late on this meeting, everybody.
I've got a new business question that I read an article talking about that there's an obligation on the school districts to test for lead in the water. And maybe not at this meeting, but can we get an update at a future meeting on what the school district is doing and how that may impact the budget that we have oversight of?
I can make it real short and sweet. We already do that. We do it on I don't remember which one's which. We do lead testing, radon testing. One's a 4-year rotation, one's a 5-year rotation. And we're in a good spot. We see some high levels of lead every once in a while. Typically it's because of an old faucet or old supply lines. We take that faucet and supply line out, put new ones in, no longer have a lead problem with that area. So we're in good shape. We've been doing that now for 4 or 5 years, I believe.
Okay, thank you.
Hey, John, what do we have for the next, do we have any other business to talk about, or are we ready for the next meeting date?
Next meeting date, February, hold my calendar here, first Monday, February 1st. And I believe we have 4 or 5 project approvals on that one. So
Perfect. Well, hearing no other business on the agenda, I would move for dismissal, I guess, to adjourn the meeting. Do I hear a motion or second?
Make a motion.
Thanks, Dane. Got a motion, need a second.
I'll second.
Who said that?
Dave. DeVore.
Dave. Thanks, Dave DeVore. Thank you. All those in favor say aye.
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 Aye. Motion carries, everybody. Thank you for being there.
thanks, Pat.
Be safe, everybody.
Thanks.
Yep.
Bye-bye.